missing you. Just hear what I've got to say.
She could lay 1,000 eggs.
Why are you bothering this poor boy?
Who are you?
I'm Nurse Wharton, Gregory's landlord, neighbor, and guardian.
You have to understand, the people get pretty uptight when there's a missing child.
But I'm the ice cream man. I make children happy. Today, you ruin the happiness of those children for many days to come.
Why can't we just stay in our backyards and just keep away from him? Because we're the Rocketeers and we stick together.
Holy shit, the kid's got a gun.
There's a child stalker out there, and you two are playing cops and robbers.
But what about Heather? She's gonna die. The ice cream man's got her.
I've already called it in. There's someone already on the way to her house.
Her house? She's not at her house.
Where's the film?
Well, I checked out Ice Cream Man. Couldn't find squat. But that weird lady with the dog, I remember she was just as flipped as he was.
You're talking about the nurse.
I called and checked on her nursing license. She had a career from 1950 to 1993. Spent the last 20 at some private clinic called Wishing Well for the Mentally Disturbed.
What kind of a day are you having, Gregory?
Hi, this is Kelly Maroney from Shopping Mall and the Zero Boys, and you are listening to The Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to episode 219. And this time you will melt with fear. Yes, it is a Nathan pick. And do you know what? How we know it's a Nathan pick? Because that's right. I'm going to need a little liquid refreshment to get through this one. We are going back to 1995 and The Ice Cream Man, which was a first time watch for me. Whether it will be the last time watch for me, it remains to be seen. But Nathan, are you pleased with yourself?
I am very pleased because Ice Cream Man is just a forgotten gem. So I'm like, it needed to be it needs to be rediscovered.
Forgotten for a reason.
How dare you?
Well, it's forgotten, yes, maybe for a reason. But well, thank you, Nathan. We'll see whether or not we agree with you a little bit later. But how are you doing, Erik?
Justin gave out to me. Before we started recording, you shouted at me.
I did not shout at you.
You did.
I said I was trying to do a countdown, and Erik started playing his sound clips, and I just went, shh.
He's crying. He's crying.
Do you remember that time?
I'll never forget the time I thought Justin shushed me.
Rude man who shushes, Nathan. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
What you thought was because I was talking about that Bollywood film, Shush.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I don't know, we were talking at the same time and you were talking about shush, and like I just heard shush, and I was like, okay, I'll stop.
Ooh.
Well, I do apologise, Erik, because we don't want to repeat that time. Do you remember? I'm not sure which episode it was, but do you remember when you threatened to throw yourself out the window and then you turned out you're on the ground floor?
I'm not on the ground floor. I'm on the fourth floor and I'm at home, yes.
Okay. So, anyway, where maybe this will be an overly dramatic episode. We'll see.
Yes.
The Ice Cream Man brings out in us. But
it makes me want to do this.
You selfish relative!
That's the kind of reaction I'm getting right now.
Well, if I didn't have a dairy intolerance before, I certainly do have one now. But before we get on to that, let's talk about what we've been watching recently. So, Nathan, how about you?
I watched The Witches. Have you guys seen The Witches from 1990 with Angelica Houston? It's kind of like a kid's horror movie. I think it's a lot of fun.
Bette Midler as well, is it? No,
that's Hocus Pocus.
Oh, yes, sorry.
The Witches is where this boy and his grandmother go to this really large hotel, and there's this group of women having a conference there, and Angelica Houston is kind of the guest speaker, and it turns out they're all witches, and they have this plan to like kill, or actually they want all the children dead, and they have a plan about how to go about that. And this little boy has to thwart them. And it's just a lot of fun. And I love Angelica Houston in this movie. As the Grand High Witch, she is just so like sassy and extra. Because at one point, because she's got this potion that will turn kids into mice. And somebody's like, well, what if an adult drinks that? And she goes, well, I guess that's too bad for the adult. I mean, I like her just flippant attitude about the whole thing. But if you guys haven't seen it, it's actually a lot of fun.
It's a Roald Dahl adaptation, is it?
That's right, yeah. I've seen some people say that it's scarier watching it as an adult than it was as a kid. So,
I mean, their plan is pretty messed up.
I'm trying to think. I don't think I've seen, well, it's one of those, I'm not sure if I've seen it or not, to be honest. but I know of it. You know, those kind of, we talked about those films before where you've seen so many clips over the years on shows and various people talked about it. You kind of get the kind of sort of, you're not quite sure if you've seen it or not. So,
yeah, because you might have gotten the gist of it anyway.
Indeed. And also I probably read the book when I was a kid because Roald Dahl was very popular over here. So did you enjoy James's Giant Peach, Eric?
I don't think I've ever seen James's Giant Peach.
Oh, okay. James
Gandolfini's Giant Peach I did enjoy.
I bet you did. So hopefully pre-mortem. Okay, Nathan, anything else?
I think that's it. I can't, because most everything else I've been watching has been stuff for the podcast.
Okay, well, fair enough. Joseph, how about you?
Yeah, so the only thing, I've only seen one thing in the past few weeks, and it's not even a horror film, but I'm going to talk about it regardless. It's Bill and Ted Face the Music. For me, good? Yeah, for me at least, Bill and Ted are probably my sort of go-to, quote unquote, you had to have grown up with, or you had to have been their kind of pop culture icons, and that rather than steep themselves in irony and cynicism, the comedy with Bill and Ted kind of derives from two guys who essentially want everyone to be excellent to one another, and it kind of follows the left-hand diversions they often get into when trying to achieve that goal. I think that's as good as we could all hope for in these wacky times. But yeah, Bill and Ted Face the Music is the third and long-delayed third entry. That's redundant in the Bill and Ted saga, obviously. And after having zipped through time in the first film and traveled through the afterlife in the second one, this time they're these aging kind of once famous rock stars. And I like that they seem to have gained some kind of age appropriated wisdom, even though they're still basically aloof and boneheaded. Basically, Bill and Ted were always kind of prophesied to write a song that would unite the entire universe in harmony. And after nearly 30 years, they've still not written that song. And now time is threatening to fold in on itself if they don't have the song written by a specific date. So they basically travel to the future to steal the song from themselves when they have written it. And with each leap in trying to get the song, they keep running into these very exaggerated and bizarre older versions of themselves. So that's the basic plot, even though there's more to it than that. But I will just say that, yeah, Bill and Ted Face the Music is it's in perfect sync almost with the previous two in tone and style. I think the comedy this time is more subversive, though the message is still essentially the same, be excellent to one another. It doesn't quite measure up to the first two films, mainly because the film, it feels a little overstuffed at times. And I think Keanu Reeves really needs to keep his beard. Just joking there, Keanu. But yeah, it's well worth the wait if you are a Bill and Ted fan. If you're not familiar with those two guys, you probably won't enjoy it. I am talking about this because especially the second film has a lot of horror movie elements. Like I said, especially the second film, Bogus Journey, where they go to hell and they see the devil and they recruit death to help them, in their mission. So yeah, great film. I enjoyed it. Long delayed sequel. I'm glad they finally released it. Thumbs way up for me.
Okay. Anyone else seen that?
I want to.
Me too. Yeah.
I started to watch it. See, I don't think I've ever seen either of the Bill and Ted movies. So I started to watch it, and Stuart was a big fan of both of those movies. And so we started to watch it, and we've got about 15 minutes into it, and I turned to Stuart and said, this isn't very funny, is it? And he was saying, no, you've had to watch the first ones to get the humour. And then after about 20 minutes said, no, it's not very funny. We stopped watching it. But he said, we'll go back to it after we've rewatched, or I've seen for the first time, the first two movies. So I kind of guess it's kind of, like you said, it's a film that possibly you may need some history with the characters to get the humour.
Yeah. And that's ironic considering a lot of the film deals with history, but yeah, you do need history.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm open to it. I like it. I kind of quite like what I saw. I thought it was going to be a comedy, and it wasn't funny. So to start off with anyway. So I will go back to it because I know it has a special place in lots of people's hearts, and I know a lot of people have watched it and said it's really good. So we'll go back to that. But anything else, Joseph?
No, I've been moving, so that's it.
Okay. Eric, how about you?
Butt kiss.
Bup. B-U-P.
Yeah, I know.
Eric, gosh.
No.
Eric, why do you say it that way?
Because it's funny. For laughs.
For laughs.
I did watch a little bit of Never Say Never Again this afternoon while I was doing some work downstairs. It was on the television. Sean Connery's shirt comes off in it.
Oh, Erik. When you say work downstairs, is that like topiary or? So, that's Donada, is it?
Yeah, Butt Kiss.
Butt Kiss, okay. Right. Well, a couple of things I've seen, just quickly. One was The Cleansing Hour, which I didn't have much high hopes for, really, because it's a bit of a strange title for a horror movie. But it came out last year, 2019, I think. Damien Levesque is director. And it had, it's a kind of comedy, it's a horror film with a bit of a comedic edge, I kind of guess. And it's set around a fake exorcism online show. Where they do a streaming for basically Bitcoin and tips and things of exorcisms, which are fake, and they're going to live streamed, and they have a fake priest, and everything's set up, and then they accidentally summon a real demon who possesses somebody who's meant to be there as part of the hoax, and they're all the mayhem that you would expect probably from a modern possession movie, an exorcism movie happens. But it was a good old fashioned romp, and the humor was there, but it didn't completely overwhelm it. So it's funny. I almost passed it by because The Cleansing Hour, which is the name of this fake online exorcism show, doesn't really scream horror movie to me. But any of you guys seen it?
It sounds like more like a makeup YouTube channel or something.
Well, yes, I know, indeed. It's not. It doesn't scream the thing, but I quite enjoyed it. It's quite good fun. It kind of reminded me. It's still got that the whole kind of internet-based horror thing, which is kind of ongoing, which is understandable. And we spoke about the Host, didn't we? The Zoom horror movie. Did we talk about it on the other shows?
Yeah,
we did.
A few episodes back.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, what about you guys? Have either of you guys seen it or heard of it?
No.
I mean, I barely get to watch anything anymore, so it's far down on the list.
Well, the only other thing I was going to mention was a bit of a throwaway film that we caught on Netflix, flicking through Netflix, looking for things to watch. And it was a film called Fatal Affair. Now, if you've ever watched any of those interchangeable thrillers from the 1990s that followed on from Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct, there was like a million films called things like, I don't know, fatal
unnatural discretion
or fatal
that's from The Simpsons,
fatal butt plug or whatever it was. They were just kind of just so many of these films. So this is kind of an updating of those, I kind of guess, on Netflix, with the majority. It's a majority black cast, and it is really kind of cheesy, quite funny. It's about a woman who re-engages with an old college friend who turns out to be a psycho who is out to basically destroy her family to get her, and it does everything you would probably imagine it would do in the film called Fatal Affair. But the two funny things about it was that she doesn't have an affair. She takes her knickers off halfway down to her knees and then pulls them back up, which to my mind isn't really an affair. But there you go. So different strokes and all that.
Your standards are high.
But yeah. To my mind, if the knickers stay on, then it's not an affair. But the other thing that made me laugh was that the baddie in this, he buys her a record, and I can't remember what the name of the song was. It was quite a famous pop song in the 80s, a vinyl record, which he sends to her as a gift when she's already realised he's nuts, and she gives it back to him, and then they meet up at a restaurant, and she gives it back to him, and he gets the record and he snaps it. He breaks the record in half into little pieces on the table in front of all these kind of onlooking patrons at this restaurant. And then later in the film, there's a scene where, as you probably would imagine, the showdown where he ends up in the house with her, that she hears the record playing, and he sellotaped the record back together, and it's playing, but only slightly warped, which I thought was highly unlikely. So if any of you've ever known the pain of having to put a penny or 2 pennies on the stylus of a record to stop it jumping, you'll know that you can't sellotape a shattered vinyl back together and get it to play. So that was my in-depth analysis of Fatal Affair, which is on Netflix at the moment, and we're not sponsored by Netflix. But that's
I need to look at this. I want to see this film.
It is quite.
It's on Netflix here in the UK, so I might watch that one because I do kind of like those type of films.
It does everything you would imagine, but it's fun in its own way. And without giving away, it's kind of it's going to end in a certain way. But the final character does basically has this big showdown where they're fighting, and she stabs him, knocks him over the head with a log, and they have this big kind of showdown. And then I won't tell you what happens, but he almost dies, and she saves him. And I'm thinking, can you imagine sort of in the end of Friday the 13th Part 2, or I don't know, for the end of Friday the 13th, Adrian King, Alice kind of helped Mrs. Voorhees up after chopped her head off, or anything like that. It's just painted ridiculous.
She sewed it back on.
Yes. So anyway, it's worth a watch if you kind of fancy a kind of a bit of a kind of a low rent but fun and polished kind of slick horror thriller. So that is what we've been watching recently. So talking about highly polished, slick films.
Yes.
Oh no, hold on. No, we're covering The Ice Cream Man. So Nathan, do we have a trailer for this?
I don't know. So I'm just going to say maybe. If you hear a trailer, you hear a trailer. I haven't had a chance to look. If you do, you do. You don't, you don't.
There are no bad days here at Wishing Well. Only happy days.
Open wide, Gregory.
It is a happy day. Now he's out, rehabilitated with a brand new job.
Here you go.
I'd like to buy a gallon of your hard pack.
Next. You didn't say please.
Did you see little Roger Smith today?
He was at the park. Why?
We got a missing kid.
His ice cream has a secret ingredient.
What the hell is that ice cream dork doing out this late?
What's your favorite flavor?
Wow. Always so kind to the little children.
I brought you something special.
Ooh, sounds yummy.
There's something weird going on here.
Hiya, honey. Not every day is a happy day.
Spent the last 20 at some private clinic called Wishing Well for the Mentally Disturbed.
We believe in compassion.
Shut up! We're at the Wishing Well Hospital. Get some people down here quick.
No one leaves the Wishing Well. Doctor's orders.
Even with a head start, there's no escape.
Freeze!
You can run, but you can't hide from the Ice Cream Man.
Let us pray.
Starring Olivia Hussey, Jan Michael Vincent, Sandal Bergman, David Naughton, David Warner, and Clint Howard as the Ice Cream Man.
This is gonna be fun.
The happy jingle of the neighborhood ice cream truck turns into hell's bells as Gregory Tudor, Clint Howard, delivers torture, murder, and mayhem with every scoop of Rocky Road. After witnessing the murder of his friend the Ice Cream King, Gregory grows up to become a demented ice cream man with mysterious frozen treats. No one is safe from the Ice Cream Man in this pulse-pounding nightmare that's sure to leave you chilled to the bone. I don't know if I go that far, but I do love this movie.
None of us would go that far.
None of us would go that far.
I wouldn't even take a step outside the door.
I love in the beginning when he witnesses his Ice Cream King hero get killed right in front of him. His main concern is who's going to bring the ice cream now.
What actually happens to him? Because he's got blood running down. Does he get hit?
He's a child after my own heart.
Where
are the Twixes going to come from?
I do love that Tuna is meant to be the fat kid, but it is so obvious that he's got a pillow under his shirt.
You ruined it because I was going to mention that.
I was going to mention that too, and I'm sure Justin was.
I bet we all wrote that down.
Yeah.
I also love that the nurse, played by Olivia Hussey, seems just as crazy as the Ice Cream Man himself when she was his nurse in the sanitarium.
I don't think his doctor was very sane either, was he?
What?
His doctor, the psychiatrist at the Happy Valley's the maximum security Twilight Home, or wherever he was.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I love when the cop, and I said this to you guys before we were doing the episode, when the cop asks what's in the ice cream, because it's just, I mean, it's absurd. Who would ask that? And then he gets an ice cream cone with an eyeball stuffed into the cone, and it shows a close-up of him chewing this eyeball. And I just keep thinking, how do you not know that something weird is going on? Because if it was me, I would be more like, God, what is in my mouth? Because, well, you guys know what I meant.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
we did.
certainly do. Ooh, what's in my mouth?
I love the neighborhood tramp character, Wanda. I wish she was in this movie more. And I love the little girl's mother, because there's a scene that just comes out of nowhere when the little girl goes home and the mom is like possessed by the devil or something, and she's going through some possession thing. I'm like, this suddenly became The Exorcist.
I think she's speaking in tongues, isn't she? Doesn't David Warner say your mother's speaking in tongues again?
Okay. I was like, she looked possessed. I love the chase scene in the grocery store, and that Tuna escapes by getting on the underside of a cart, and the person pushing the cart doesn't seem to notice whatsoever. I mean, is his entire body made of pillows? The one of my favorite scenes is the classic scene, I guess, that I would call it, when the ice cream man presents Wanda with a giant waffle cone with a decapitated head in it. I thought that was absolutely amazing. I loved the older brother, Jacob, the wannabe cop, who literally says at one point, because they're like, you can't go after him, you're not a cop. And he's like, I've got the gun, the badge will follow.
That's prescient.
That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
And I love that he's fooled walking down the hallway by the ice cream man holding a picture frame over his face. And so he thinks it's a picture. I mean, that was a classic moment as well. I love this movie. I find it to be so funny. And honestly, if there was probably one negative thing I would say, it's that the movie very much plays it safe. I mean, spoiler alert, literally no kid dies in this movie. Not that I'm saying I want to see dead kids or anything, but it's just, if that was the case, I think the stakes would have been a lot higher than they are. I mean, I just feel like throughout the movie, you just kind of know the kids are safe, but the adults are not safe at all. But yeah, I mean, I found it to be a hilarious movie, a whole lot of fun, and I am very excited to hear what you guys think. So I'm going to start with you, Justin. What's your opinion of The Ice Cream Man?
This is the first watch for me. I must admit, I'd not seen it before. I had heard about it, and I think I probably read an article in Fangoria, and I remember seeing David Norton's head in the waffle cone. So I kind of had some kind of idea. I kind of felt it would be more cut from the same cloth as, say, those kind of other mid-late 90s horrors like The Dentist or Dr. Giggles. I guess it is more possibly akin to, well, it is kind of akin to those, but I didn't realize until I read about it. And I think now I kind of know that we just covered for the Patreon Up from the Depths, and we talked about how it was a schizophrenic movie because it was made for started as a comedy and then cut to be a straight horror movie and then had elements of both, and it's a bit of an uneasy fit. Was that this was kind of intended as a horror movie for kids, so I can see why that would be the case, but it kind of seems very wrong-headed in a lot of ways, because although it's not massively gory in the gore that is there, apart from there's one gory scene where the ice cream man sticks a screwdriver up through a girl's neck, up, and you see it wiggling in her mouth, which is a scene similar to ones in Don't Panic, the Mexican slasher movie, and that in itself was quite sort of gory. So it seems a bit of a schizophrenic movie. I found it's so broad in a lot of ways. I was half expecting Pee Wee Herman to pop up at some point, or sort of cycle past. Reading stuff about it, and when we get into backgrounds, talk a bit more about it, but the director seems to be thinking he was making a horror film with comedic elements that would be scary, but would be have funny bits to it. And I can't really see on what planet anyone would find any of this scary, because it isn't scary. It's kind of funny and absurd, but it feels like a kid's film, but with some gore and even sexual elements, because even the scene where they take the camera to the camera store to get the film developed, and the older brother and his girlfriend run over to get the film, and then you see the film being developed. I mean, did they actually have those back in the olden days where when they developed film, they would actually show the photographs coming down?
Photomarks, yeah.
Did they see in the window?
Yeah,
you'd see what the photos coming out. So,
yes.
So even if it would be people like it was in this one with him doing a doggy style.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's at all of the photomark types, but like some like they still have some of these at some pharmacies. You can see them being printed out, and yes, I'd imagine they did have that technology back then.
Wow.
Well, Wes used to work at Walgreens, which is like a pharmacy. I don't know if you guys have them where you live, but it's a kind of a pharmacy type store. And he worked in the photo department, and he said that you would be shocked at how many people take basically sex pictures and get them developed there.
Well, yeah,
it's lots.
It just seemed very strange. So, but there was that, and just a couple of other takeaway bits. So I didn't find it scary. I thought Clint Howard was pretty weird as in like genuinely unhinged as the killer, and I think he did a pretty good job. Olivia Hussey was bizarre because again everyone plays as if they're in a Pee Wee Herman movie, and you had this bizarre. I want two other takeaway things before I pass it over. For me, one was the ice cream man was incredibly bad at scooping ice cream. I thought he was rubbish. And the other thing I've got to mention is Jan Michelle Vincent as this other cop who I don't know what drugs he was on. Jan Michael Vincent, what drugs he was on. But
it's time to Michael down your Vincents, Justin.
But the scene where the cops go to the asylum at the end of near the end of the movie, and they meet the ice cream man psychiatrist who's completely Looney Tunes and kind of living in this abandoned asylum with your usual array of slasher movie inmates, which is basically everyone twiddling their hair and walking around putting funny faces. So the usual sensitive portrayal of mental health. But he kind of did you notice that when they try and escape from the asylum, the other cop is kind of doing all these kung fu moves and trying to throw people off left, right, and centre. And Jan Michael Vincent is just walking through, and like as if he's walking out the grocery store, out of Walmart, and his face is just completely blank. He's not acting or anything.
He's embarrassed.
Well, he must be embarrassed.
Well, actually,
wasn't he?
I read that he was drunk a lot of this film.
Well, I did wonder that because he's just walking out, and if you watch it, it's the most bizarre scene. One of the most bizarre scenes I've ever seen, because he's walking out. These people are mugging at him, putting faces, jumping up and down, sort of doing sort of silly dances, and he's just walking out there like, I want to get to the bar. He does no emoting, no reacting at all. It's so bizarre. It's crazy. So overall, I can't say I liked it. I can't say that it's a film that I would want to watch again. I think it felt. I can appreciate its place in the pantheon of slasher movies, wherever that would be. I'm not entirely sure, but it was a weird mix for me of kind of like kids movie with some questionable elements, and it didn't really work for me as a comedy, or certainly didn't work as a horror movie for me. But I can see that some people would enjoy it. Thank you, Nathan.
And how about you, Joseph?
Yeah, it was a rocky road indeed, Nathan. There are scoops in Ice Cream Man that I really liked. You see what I'm doing there? I'm beating Erik to the punch.
Yeah, Eric's going to have no material left.
Department.
Oh, shut it, you slag.
There are bits in the film that I actually really, really liked. As we said, there's this epic stream of fat shaming on this poor kid named Tuna. Especially ironic that he actually isn't fat. They padded this kid with about 14 sweaters to make him look fat. And I actually love the grocery store chase scene between Clint Howard and the Tuna character. With the kid hiding underneath vegetable crispers, and at one point he uses a produce cart to make his getaway. I thought that stuff was really fun in a kind of kid's way. I also appreciated the bare minimum dialogue that sounds like it was written by a 12-year-old. The 3 or 4 main kids in the film, they speak in constant tautologies. They're like, good ice cream is good ice cream. I like ice cream, and they do seem to talk a lot about ice cream, even without the presence of the ice cream man around. So it becomes a little scary, certainly much scarier than anything in the film itself or from the title character. So yeah, Ice Cream Man, it's all over the place tonally. 1 minute it feels like an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? You know, this all kid friendly and safe, despite maybe a few extra ounces of gore here and there. And then the next minute, we kind of start to, I don't know, we move into this realm of almost pitying the Clint Howard character. There's essentially two plots, and they both center around his character. And one, he's this kind of cable TV friendly villain in a kids show, and he has this dose of irony and knowing. He seems lucid enough to be in on the joke, whatever the joke is. But then the next scene, when he's off elsewhere, you know, not chasing the kids, he's, you know, if he's dealing with his landlord or dodging police investigation, he seems to possess no self-awareness, and he behaves as if he needs like serious mental help. And so there's a stark contrast that's tough to shake. I mean, I didn't know whether to pity him or feel sorry for him, or fear him, or just kind of laugh with him. I did appreciate all the big name celebrity cameos in this film. Olivia Hussey, my God, her character was so bizarre. And you also got David Naughton. I don't know what he was doing here. As Justin was talking about, Jan Michael Vincent, David Warner is this preacher. And the list goes on and on. I mean, I wonder how they all came to kind of agree on this project. Ultimately, though, the film felt like it was written for 12-year-olds, possibly by 12-year-olds, Nathan. I also seriously began to question why we were covering this on the main feed, because when we do get to the first actual real slasher-style death, it's at 58 minutes into the film. I mean, up until that point, we see like fake department store like gore props, and, you know, Clint Howard will occasionally kidnap a child or feed an eyeball to a cop. But the scant pieces of the slasher, you know, they come late, very, very late. And by that point, I'd maybe chuckled a few times, but I don't think that was enough to really recommend this one. You know, like I said, I'll admit it becomes a little manic toward the conclusion. I especially like the scene with the cops wandering through that hospital and the severed head kind of ventriloquist scene. Well, you know, bless them for trying at least. But I don't know. It just felt too little too late by that point for me. I also wondered what the joke was supposed to be, because they seem to be making one throughout the film, and I just didn't really get it. So it's a skip it for me, I'm afraid. I can see how this would appeal to the pre-pimple brigade, though, you know, kids, but it's just not for me.
Well, it appeals to me, and I'm almost 40.
Well, you still have pimples, or you haven't got your pimples yet. So
you're just not as mature as me and Justin and Joseph.
Apparently. Yeah. All right, Eric, let's get your dose of maturity.
Okay, well, you'll be probably surprised to hear that I kind of enjoyed the film, not to the extent that I'd ever go back for second helpings of this particular brand of ice cream, but I was surprised that it was kind of a solid 86 minutes of minor entertainment. Like the lads, it's not one I'd revisit anytime soon, I don't think. I'd never seen this before either, so this is a first time watch for me this week, and Joseph kind of made the comparison. When I asked him what's the film like, Joseph said it was kind of like Monster Squad-ish, and that's kind of spot on. It has I sort of, but I
part Monster Squad.
Monster Squad's much better.
No, sorry. I think what you meant was, in terms of its plot, it's about kids versus and it has kind of it's you know, as you were saying, it's aimed at a younger market, but then elements of it seem to be aimed at an older market, so it has a kind of a strange feel. But what I did notice from the offset is how 90s the film was. Like when we were discussing the Brady Bunch movie on our Patreon episodes last year or the year before, we were saying how funny it is that they're all laughing. The characters in the film are laughing at the 70s fashions, whereas in retrospect, the 90s fashions are much more absurd. I mean, the baggy shirts, the floppy fringes,
the bright colors,
the baggy jeans, everything's so baggy. And they all look like they're trying to be Edward Furlong, all the kids, who was, you know, well past his heyday at this stage. Obviously, fashion moved very slowly in the 90s. And yeah, Tuna did stand out, because when I saw Tuna first coming on screen, I was like, well, that shirt is obscenely baggy. And then I was like, is it padded? And then you sort of learn he's supposed to be the fat kid. And I'm like, But he's obviously a thin kid. And like, how difficult was it for them to find a sort of a chubby kid? Are they scarce in Hollywood? I'm not sure.
One thing I was going to mention, it may be a thing where they wanted to make fat jokes, but they didn't want to make fat jokes at a fat person, so they hired a skinny person to play a fat person. So I would give them credit if that's the case, but I don't know if that's the case. So.
True. Unless there's an alternate version of the film where he loses loads of weight at the end and they wanted him for that. I don't know. I thought there was a kind of a phantasm vibe in places mainly because Clint Howard goes around in an ice cream truck like the tall man, and he looks kind of like Reggie Bannister with his bald head. And again, sort of the only people who suspect the ice cream man are this bunch of kids, like in the Michael character in Phantasm. But the one thing it reminds me of, and I didn't really want it to remind me of this film, was Freddy's Dead, particularly the asylum scenes with all the quirky characters. It was like we were back in Springwood in Freddy's Dead. And I was like... Oh. That's
what this film felt like. Yeah. I couldn't pinpoint it, Eric. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that I found that kind of not really into it here. Now, on the plus side, I thought the kids were all likable, the young cast. They were good actors, and... often kiddie characters in these films can be kind of obnoxious, or else they might be just really bland, or they might be just too much of a goody two-shoes. But I thought they were quite likable, not smart Alex or gobby types, but they were feisty and assertive, and they were kind of fun to watch. I was wondering, though, Nathan, you might be able to answer this. Small Paul, is he any relation to Lil Tony from Blood Lake?
Well, if he is, Small Paul is the very, very shy version of Lil Tony.
The flip side of Lil Tony.
Yes, he's like the good version, where Lil Tony's kind of the devil version.
Well, at the end of the film, he might turn out to be Lil Tony. Maybe Blood Lake is a sequel to...
Maybe so.
Yeah.
He became hardened. He became hardpack after... his experience with the ice cream man.
True. I like you. I did like that chase scene around the supermarket, but I just find it absurd that nobody could spot Tuna hiding. And also, it's a really crowded supermarket. Did nobody notice this poor kid being menaced by this sinister middle-aged man?
The aisleways are so narrow and they're so crowded with people. You'd think someone would say, hey, there's this creepy-looking bug-eyed guy chasing this little pretend fat kid around.
Yeah, and there's I suppose there's an element of pedophilia about the ice cream man, dare I say, which I was listening to the commentary track on the Vinegar Syndrome disc, and they're saying that element was completely unintentional, that it's only in retrospect that they noticed that because he doesn't kill the kids, he kidnaps them and keeps them in a cage in his basement, which makes it even more sinister than killing them probably. So yeah, it's a very strange for a film aimed at a younger audience. It's a very strange tone that the film hits in places. I thought the special effects were good, though, Nathan, as you're saying, that the giant cone with the severed head on it, and the two decapitated policemen, and the ice pick going through the chin. Did anyone notice that when the ice cream man is sort of sieving the remains of who's the slutty character again? The mistress. Wanda. He's sort of straining the remains of Wanda through this colander, and we see a diaphragm left.
Yes. I like that. Yeah. I love that her house numbers were 149.
Why?
Because it's a sex joke. She's 149, 9 inches.
Oh.
I thought that was kind of clever, actually.
I didn't get that.
I'm sure the kids who watched this probably didn't pick up on that.
Yes. So, you know, I was surprised that it was a mid-90s. I don't know if it got a cinema release over in the States, but for over here in Ireland, it was kind of straight to video, and mid-90s straight to video, I was like, would ring alarm bells with me. But I was surprised that there was elements in this I kind of enjoyed. It's quite lightweight overall. So, as I said, it was kind of solid, but unremarkable. I won't be revisiting it anytime soon, but I don't regret having to sit for 90 minutes and watch it. So that's
I've never regretted watching any of my picks, right?
Oh, of course not, Nathan.
Thank you.
I think I'd agree with you, Eric. It's like, I don't like the film, but I can see where some people would.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want to slag it off too much. I mean, it has its problems, obviously, but somebody would get something out of this film. So I'll be fair and say that. There's a couple of takeaway things. Actually, were you done, Eric?
I was done, yes.
Okay, yeah, there's a couple of takeaway things. Olivia Hussey, I love that every time the cops show up, she's like, leave him alone. I'm the one who reported the missing dog. And they never think to ask her why she keeps bringing that up and is she covering for him? I just thought that was funny. And the small Paul character, would they really allow this kid who's been kidnapped by a deranged ice cream man to churn ice cream at the insane asylum at the very end there?
You got a point. Like, why would they do it?
Why would they give him this? Yeah. And he's dressed like the ice cream man too. So why would they enable this behavior? I don't get it.
I know that was wrong of them. Maybe he went to a similar sanitarium like that Clint Howard had went to, and he was just sort of going to get green injections in his skull and fed mashed potatoes for ice cream.
Yeah, I will say, as I said, from Up from the Depths, which we just recorded, there is also a Riff Tracks version of this that I've not seen. That now I kind of want to see it now.
I mean, you might like it better with the Riff Tracks,
Possibly, yeah.
Okay, well. Do we have some background?
That was the ice cream.
Yes.
Man.
Well, we need to go into deep dive into the background now.
Yes, we do. Okay, I've got some background.
Okay.
Clint Howard screamed and yelled at the top of his lungs while driving in a car every day to the set, so he'd have more gravelly voice for his role as Gregory. I think the gravelly voice worked, honestly. The first draft of the script was written in 3 days. The filmmakers originally wanted to secure a PG-13 rating. That did not happen. And something you guys probably weren't aware of, JoJo Adams, who played Tuna, had a pillow tucked under his shirt to make him look fatter.
No way.
Yes. Mashed potatoes were used as a substitute for ice cream in a lot of shots.
What?
Probably because the ice cream would melt.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's the scenes where they're feeding him in the sanitarium. It looks like mashed potatoes there.
Yeah.
It's a common practice with commercials and stuff to use mashed potatoes on ice cream.
I didn't know that.
I know which one I'd prefer.
Which one?
Ice cream.
Yeah, I like.
Would it be Melanie's ice cream?
Ooh.
Let's eat Melanie's ice cream.
David Warner only worked for 2 days on the film. And the director's son appears as a little boy who stands in line to get some ice cream from the ice cream man. And the cop in the movie, played by Jan Michael Vincent, seems to really like the flowers outside Olivia Hussey's place. And I was just kind of wondering to myself, why does he make remarks about these when they're just plastic lawn flowers with the spinny petals? But I do have a funny flower story, but I'll spare you guys.
You have to tell us now.
Tell us your funny flower story.
Well, Wes, my husband, when we first met, he had mentioned that his favorite flower was daffodils. You guys know what daffodils are?
No, I've never heard of them.
No, what are
They're like yellow.
Yeah, I know what daffodils are, Nathan. I'm joking.
Sorry.
Yes, we know.
Okay. So I was going to get him some of those, to be sweet and everything, but for some reason I got them mixed up with dandelions, so I was going around calling florists and stuff asking about dandelions.
Oh no.
If I could get like a bouquet of them. And then later finally somebody corrected me and told me that dandelions are those weeds that grow in your yard.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can get a bouquet of them anytime you want.
Oh, Nathan.
But only after I made a fool of myself, calling florists and asking for dandelions. I'm like, why didn't the first one tell me?
It's a good job you weren't ripped off, though, because somebody may have taken advantage of you and gone out and picked some dandelions.
Obviously, these people don't need a horticulture degree to get the job there.
No, I did. My flower story was that I got mixed up with we were around a friend's house and she was showing me the plants, and I said, "Oh, I know that one," is because I'm really bad with gardening, and I got told to stop planting plants when I planted everything upside down at the allotment once. So I just kind of went and drank cider instead. And I said, "Oh, I'd like your chlamydia."
Oh no!
Oh, Justin.
So
that may have been a bigger faux pas than mine.
Possibly.
Yeah, I don't have a flower story. You win, Justin.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you. So, okay, well, who else has got some background?
Clint Howard. He is the brother of Ron Howard, who is a famous film director and actor and stuff. And so Clint is in a lot of his brother's films. He's in Splash, Cocoon, Apollo 13. We know him best, of course, as Cooper Smith from Evil Speak. Have we covered Evil Speak on the podcast?
No.
We have not.
Is it? Is it a slasher movie? Could we make the case?
No, I think it would be
really,
a Patreon.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
it's more of a Carrie type film. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's also in the amazing selection of Nathan type films: Carnosaur, Ticks, and Leprechaun 2. And he's more.
I love Ticks. Ticks is amazing.
Ticks is really good.
It's awesome.
And most recently, he was, well, not most recently, but more recently, he was in 3 from Hell, which is a wonderful Rob Zombie movie, probably. Did you see that in 2014, they tried to do a Kickstarter campaign to fund a sequel called Ice Cream Man 2 Sunday, Bloody Sunday? That's SUNDAE. It's a clever thing. But they were trying to raise $300,000 and the campaign closed after 3 weeks after they only managed to raise $4,000, which is
that kind of makes me feel bad, actually.
It felt kind
of
I know
how they feel.
I mean, the Ice Cream Man just didn't have as big of a following, I'm afraid, because maybe if it came out during the internet days and it had plenty of publicity.
Well, it was. The internet was in its infancy, I suppose. This is what, 95, 96?
Yeah, it's 95.
95, yeah. Apparently, the original DVD release of the film was heavily edited, because I was listening to as I said, the commentary track from the director on the Vinegar Syndrome disc, and he keeps making reference to the fact that the version he's watching is cut, and the scene with the ice pick going up through the chin and you can see it wiggling around in the mouth, or is it a screwdriver, whatever it is. He says he didn't see that on screen. But I was like, but it's just happened. So he's obviously his screener copy that he was doing the commentary to is obviously a cut version. The writer of the film, David Dobnik, has gone on to have a sort of successful career in Hollywood. He directed Fred Claus, which is the only film I have ever walked out of the cinema on, because it was that bad. He also directed Wedding Crashers, The Change Up, and he did lots of rock videos, mainly for Maroon 5, who, Justin, you're a big fan of them, aren't you?
No.
Oh, sorry, I must be getting you confused with somebody else.
I like Maroon 5.
Oh, no.
I do. What's wrong? I don't understand. Like, I think they're good.
Oh, no.
Mikey LeBeau, who plays Small Paul, he was also in Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions the same year as this. Justin Eisfeld, who plays Johnny, he went on to be in 5 American Pie movies. Now, I've only ever seen one, the first one, but I have no desire to see any of the others, because I think I'm the only person in the world who absolutely hated American Pie.
I hated it too, actually.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
A kindred spirit.
I couldn't stand it.
I've never seen it.
I couldn't get there was so much fuss and so many good reviews for it. I was just gobsmacked at how awful it was.
I liked it.
Oh, well, you would, Mr. Maroon 5.
Hey, well, Eric, we still have a bond, Feladay.
Yes, and possibly in Michigan.
Yes.
Yeah. Lee Majors the second.
Well, I'm glad you guys are both coming around to Feladay. That's great.
No, we're united in our hatred for Feladay. Feladay? Fella shite, more like.
It failed every day.
Yeah, you tell him. Lee Majors the second. Any guesses for who his dad is?
Clint Eastwood?
Lee Majors
John
the first?
Washington?
John Washington is correct, yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
But he changed his name.
I just made that name up on the fly, by the way.
Yeah, he changed his name to Lee Majors. He's hot. That's a Friends reference. No?
Hi, Marge. I'm Lee Majors. Won't you fly away with me?
Yeah. So if you
stop fantasizing about Lee Majors.
Oh, one more.
That's more Simpsons references for you, Justin. If you knowing that he's Lee Majors' son, when you look at him, you can definitely see Lee Majors' face on his body.
Which one was he? Was he the cop? The other?
Yes, he was the other cop apart from Jan Michael Vincent. Okay. So he didn't have a huge amount of acting gigs, but he did appear opposite his father in 3 $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman crossover TV movies, including the classically titled Bionic Ever After in 1994, which I'd love to see just because I think the title is amazing.
Jan is amazing.
Yeah. And Jan Michael Vincent, we've mentioned, he's one of those, I suppose, could have beens, because he was big in the 70s. He was nominated for a Golden Globe in 1971 for Going Home. He was the studio's original choice, apparently, to play Hooper in Jaws. The role eventually went to Richard Dreyfuss. And he was in Big Wednesday as well. And then in the 80s, he became the highest paid actor on television for his role in Airwolf. Apparently, he was getting up to $250,000 per episode. But it was during his Airwolf days that he descended into sort of drink and drugs, and then he found himself in kind of straight to video land in the 90s and noughties, and it probably explains why apparently he may have...
I need a goddamn Jan Michael Vincent. Sorry, it's a Rick and Morty reference there for you.
I've never watched Rick and Morty.
Me either.
So it might explain why he may have had a tipple on the set of Ice Cream Man. And Tuna is a skinny kid in a big padded shirt.
good.
Is that the new Alan Dale joke?
Yes.
Yes.
We need to start bringing this up from now on. Tuna, every trivia
yes,
has to center around tuna.
So, well, thank you. What about you, Joseph? Do you have anything for us?
Yeah, I have a big fat goose egg, Justin.
Nothing.
Butt kiss.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have some quite juicy background for you, actually. So, well, did you know that the film was the only straight, in inverted commas, film for a notorious porn director called Paul Norman, who was here, I think, as Epstein Norman. And he directed 134 adult movies from 1986 to 1999. And he started his career making bisexual pornography. And he helmed, as it were, the notorious By and Beyond series, which debuted in 1988. He was also inducted into the AVN Hall of Fame, and the scene in the supermarket where the woman asks about the lipstick. That was his wife, Tori Wells, who was an adult actress. He was married to her. They split up in just after this film was made, I think. I was going to mention Tori Wells. I forgot completely about her. She was a staple of my teen years, by the way. Was she?
I bet she was.
Yes, she was.
But apparently he did the dirty on her and released a private home video of himself and her in 1997 after the divorce, called The Private Diary of Tori Wells. And apparently she wasn't too happy about it. So and she's still working within the adult industry behind the scenes as Britannia Paris now. So again, that adds a different complexity perhaps to the movie. The film was originally intended as a spoof of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but was retooled, for want of a better term, because they worried it would be too sick. Because the idea really was to have a kind of Freddy-style character who was murdering kids. But they decided not to go for that. So they decided to make a horror movie for kids without too much gore. As I think we mentioned, it was meant to be a PG-13. Now, the director was interviewed in Fangoria back in 1995, and he said that it wasn't a spoof anymore, and the humor was, in inverted commas, in his words, subtle. So make of that what you will.
I don't know if I would go with that.
No.
Okay.
But it was kind of based around the idea of the legend of the Pied Piper. In this was that Clint Howard's The Ice Cream Man was going to be leading all the bad parents, clearing out the bad parents from town. He said that the killer had great pathos. And was sympathetic. And Clint Howard was quoted as saying, "I don't know about that. Anyone who kidnaps kids and cuts the heads off 2 police officers can't be considered sympathetic." The budget was just under $2 million. So I think that probably indicates why the caliber of people like David Warner and David Norton appeared in this, was because they got probably a not too unhealthy paycheck for not very much work. The shooting began in March 1994, and it was shot in the LA suburb of San Gabriel. The film didn't get a cinema release anywhere, as far as I'm aware. It went straight to video in the United States. The only couple of other things was that the special effects were by someone called Mark Garbarano, who said that when they shot the asylum scenes at a real abandoned asylum in Pasadena, and he said that when they got there, the whole place was covered in satanic graffiti. And he said that it was already there when they got there; they didn't add it. So he said they think it was from some kids who had a rave there or some kind of party, although it could have obviously been from some kind of satanic ritual, which kind of adds a little bit of creepiness to the film, which it doesn't really have. So, so that's the background. Really.
Was that from your goth days when you went and did that to that sanitarium, Justin?
Well, I wasn't anywhere near Pasadena in 95, but...
you weren't?
No. Yeah, does that add a kind of different complexity to the fact that it's the one sort of kind of mainstream movie for a kind of adult director? I know it's not certainly in the pantheon of slasher movies. I mean, all sorts of from The Prey to Wes Craven, Sean Cunningham all got their starts in the adult industry, but. Considering this is a movie for kids, but it has this kind of weird feeling.
One thing I was going to mention, Justin, you said the budget was just under $2 million. The film actually looks really, really, really good. There's a the opening scene with the flashback in black and white. They basically kind of recreate this sort of Leave It to Beaver feel, and it's so well done and so well shot. And the rest of the movie's like that too. So you can't really fault the film on a technical level, I don't think.
No, well, I mean, it's for a straight-to-video movie, which I'm sure it wasn't filmed intended to be straight-to-video, but I imagine that the film was probably unsellable as a kids' movie, wasn't it, for a cinema release? And
that's what it seems like, yeah.
I think it would have been picketed, which actually could have helped it.
Could have helped it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I will say Paul Norman, I was looking at his filmography, and he definitely has done a lot of porn, Intercourse with the Vampire, Edward Penis Hands, and Stick It in the Rear Part 2.
Wow.
Oh, I love that movie.
I noticed a few titles from my teen years. I was like, oh, wow, he directed The Ice Cream Man. Oh, my God.
Edward Penis Hands is quite infamous, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
it's
anyway,
a great title.
It is a great title. Nothing wrong with being an adult director, and all kudos to him.
No,
it just seems an odd mix of kind of sort of going for a kids movie with, like I say, that is that scene with the photographs coming out of the thing and the older brother's kind of rear-ending his girlfriend. It just seemed for a kids movie, it wasn't really going to be something that you can imagine parents dropping off their 8-year-olds at the cinema on a Saturday matinee. But Ice Cream Man, Nathan, thank you.
Thank you very much to all of you for watching it.
Oh, thank you.
Even if it was a lukewarm reception, I expected worse. So I was actually a little surprised.
You can't be disappointed if you
I'd
expect
say
worse.
it's not lukewarm. I'd say it's like melted ice cream, maybe.
Okay. Melted ice cream's not that good, though. Who wants melted ice cream?
Exactly.
How dare you?
Well, you can drink it. You can drink it. I'm just trying to say that it's got its moments. You can still drink the ice cream. It's just not the same.
That is true. So, what's the consensus, Joseph, and the comment of the week?
Okay. Out of a surprising 81 votes, 59% of our listeners enjoyed The Ice Cream Man. 29% were neutral, and the remaining 12% were not impressed. Our listener of the week is JJ Ellis, and he writes, I didn't see it, but it always looked a bit vanilla to me. Ha 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 ha.
Very good. Very clever.
Very
that's a good pun.
Yeah. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Patreon, and we really appreciate all the Patreon support. In addition to most, if not all, podcatchers, and our email address is info or feedback at thehysteriacontinues.net.
Excellent. Well, thank you. At least we've had one good pun this episode.
It's my joke of the week. It's so freaking fantastic.
Clint Howard stole my ice cream. How dare he? How dare he?
I like that one.
That was your dignity getting up and leaving.
Trip.
Well, thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Eric. That wasn't too. That was quite clever.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's a pleasure. So, right. Well, do we have any feedback?
I don't have
anything.
Kiss.
Did you send me anything, Joseph? Do we have anything for this one, do we? Because we're putting a few in the bank,
I don't
as it were.
think we had anything. Yeah.
No, because we are recording a little bit in advance. So we're making sure we have all this quality content for you, uninterrupted, going through September. So, but yeah, do write in, because obviously we always like to hear from you. So, well, what are we covering next time? I ask myself, as it's my choice. Well, I know sometimes Eric likes to be scared, don't you, when you're alone in the dark. Scary title for the for 1982's Alone in the Dark, about a trio, I think, of escaped maniacs on the loose in small town Americana, with Donald Pleasance, Martin Landau, and a whole host of recognizable faces. So Alone in the Dark. We're hoping that we will be joined by friend of the show, Meep. But we'll hopefully be able to confirm that soon. But yeah, so looking forward to going back to the classic era of the slasher movie, the early 1980s. So that'll be an exciting one. So anything else left to say? Apart from, what are we playing out with?
Nathan, Nathan, I was going to ask you, what are we playing out with? Now, I'll be shocked if you don't pick Ice Cream Man by Van Halen.
That's exactly what I was going to pick. Because I have it pulled up right here, and I was like, I don't want to forget what I'm playing out with. But yeah, that's exactly what I want to play out with.
Don't think I know this song.
I'm your ice cream man, keep you satisfied.
Oh, I think I do. Is that David Lee Roth era or?
Yeah, David Lee Roth.
Sammy Hagar. It's David Lee Roth.
Roth.
Cool. Okay. Right. Well, thank you for listening to The Hysteria Continues, and we'll catch you next time when we're all alone in the dark. So, say goodbye to the good people.
Goodbye, good people.
Goodbye, good people.
Bye.
Goodbye.